All right. Go ahead and call the April Little Rock Planning Commission meeting to order. I am getting feedback, Robbie, from your deal. I don't know if you can kill the volume, or can somebody help him with, you may have done it. You may have gotten it. Okay, well played. All right, we are doing this. These meetings are, part of our commissioners are online and part of our commissioners are here in person. So we do occasionally run into some technical issues throughout the evening. So we apologize in advance for that. Our first item, as usual, is a roll call and the determination of a quorum. So Mr. Thrower.
It's roll call vote for the April 13, 2024 Planning Commission meeting.
Okay.
Brown.
Here.
Hart.
Here.
Haynes.
Here.
Hodge. Commissioner Hodge. Latour.
Here.
McDonald.
Here.
Thomas.
Here.
Vickers. Commissioner Vickers. Vogel.
Here.
Whitaker. We have a quorum.
Have a quorum, okay. Before we move on to approval of minutes, I do want to mention that we have 7 by my count. So 7 commissioners, is that right, Mr. Thrower? And so it,
Yes, sir, that is correct.
yeah, so it takes, it still takes to get an item approved, 6 positive votes of the 11 commissioners. So we have 7 commissioners. So those of you who are on the agenda tonight, you might want to be mindful of that. There is an opportunity to defer if you choose to do that. Not recommending that, but we do just have 7 commissioners on for tonight's meeting. Okay, we'll move on to item 2 on the agenda, which is approval of the minutes of March 9th, 2023. And I will assume everyone's had a chance to look at those. I'll go ahead and ask for a roll call vote for approval of the minutes.
Brown.
Do we need a motion or can we just go with it?
Oh, a motion, I'm sorry.
All right, then I make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Go ahead, Mr. Thurl.
Brown.
Yes.
Hart.
Yes.
Haynes.
Yes.
Hodge. Latour. Commissioner Mature, I believe you're on mute. You're muted.
Yes.
McDonald.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Vickers. Vogel.
Yes.
Whitaker. Minutes have been approved.
Okay, minutes stand approved. Item number 3 on the agenda is the presentation of our consent agenda. So, Mr. Moore.
Following is a consent agenda for the Little Rock Planning Commission meeting of April 13th, 2023. You have one item on consent withdrawal as item A, file number Z9733, Bell Chevrolet Commercial PCD, northwest corner of Highway 10 and Interstate 430. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on March 8th requesting this application be withdrawn without prejudice. Staff supports that request. Next, you have items on consent deferral. Item E, file number Z9766, Moreno Event Center, PCD, 13,008 West Markham Street. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on April 5th requesting this item be deferred to the June 8th agenda. Staff supports that request. Item 6, Z3748A, Parham Place, revised PCD, 300 South Rodney Parham Road. The applicant failed to send notifications to surrounding property owners as required. Staff recommends the application be deferred to the May 11th agenda. Item 7, Z5502K, West Canis Storage 2, PDC, west of 17301 Canis Road. The applicant failed to send the notifications to surrounding property owners as required. Staff recommends the application be deferred to the May 11th agenda. Item 8, Z9769, Socios LLC, short-term rental, PDC, 4401 and 4405 Lee Avenue. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on March 22nd requesting this application be deferred to the June 8th agenda. Staff supports that request. Item 9, Z9772, Artis, short-term rental, PDC, 48 Dartmouth Drive. The applicant submitted a letter to staff on March 22nd requesting this application be deferred to the June 8th agenda. Staff supports that request. And item 11, Hillcrest Design Overlay District Amendment. Staff recommends this item be deferred to the May 11th agenda. Next are the items on consent approval. Item C, Z9756, Gregory Duplex, CUP, 819 West 32nd Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested CUP subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. Item D is being moved to regular. Item 1, S1888C, Fletcher Valley Phase 2 preliminary plat, north side of Canis Road, west of Fletcher Ridge Boulevard. Staff recommends approval of the proposed preliminary plat and associated variances, subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. Item number 2, Z9767, Phillips Duplexes, CUP, 4522 Malloy Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested CUP subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraph E and the staff analysis in the agenda staff report. Item number 3, Z9771, Ackland Accessory Dwelling, CUP, 516 South Oak Street. Staff recommends approval of the requested CUP subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraph E and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report. We're moving items 4 and 5 to the regular agenda. So the last item on consent approval will be item 10, A343, Pinewood Land Annexation, south side of the Little Rock and Western Railroad from East Pinnacle Road to Buckland Circle. Staff recommends approval of the annexation. That completes the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Would entertain a motion at this time.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, Mr. Thrower.
Brown,
Yes.
Art,
Yes.
Haynes,
Yes.
Hodge, Latour,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Vickers, Vogel,
Yes.
Whitaker. Consent agenda has been approved.
Agenda was approved. So for those of you who had an item on the consent agenda, you're welcome to stay with us. But your item has already been dealt with. You may be here because of two items that won't be heard tonight. One is Bale Chevrolet Commercial PCD. That item has been withdrawn. And the other was a discussion that was to occur on a staff report for the Hillcrest Design Overlay District, and that has been withdrawn as well. So if you're here for either of those two items, those will not be discussed tonight.
Chair, if I may,
Yes, sir.
I was just wanting to make sure that we clarify the meeting behind less than 8 commissioners in attendance. It is tied to the deferral. In the event that 8 commissioners or less are in attendance at the hearing, the commissioner or the chair will give the applicant an option to be heard or deferred at the applicant's request. Any deferral in that case shall be as from the applicant. So just procedure-wise, as each item is heard before we read through the item on staff's analysis report, I would suggest that we let the applicant come at the podium and then let the commission know whether this item is to be deferred or wants to be heard. And if they choose to be heard, then we will proceed with staff's presentation.
Okay. All right, first item on the regular agenda is item B, Cantrell West Retail Center. So I do want to ask, as Mr. Collins indicated, is this an item that you would like to defer as the applicant, or do you want that heard tonight?
No, we're going to defer.
Going to defer, okay, all right. Okay, item B has been deferred. Do we need a motion for that?
Yes, you do.
Okay, would someone I'd entertain a motion?
I move to allow for the deferral of item B.
Second.
Mr. Chair, you deferring 1 month,
Yes.
the May agenda, be the May 11th agenda.
All right, to clarify, that deferral is until next month's meeting. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Yes, can we move to allow the applicant to defer to next month's scheduled planning commission meeting?
Okay. All right, that's a clarification of that motion. Okay. All the commissioners online understand what we just did?
Well, let me just
Yes.
say what I mean.
Yes.
Okay. All right, Mr. Thrower, we'll take a roll call vote on item B, deferral.
Brown,
Abstain.
Hart,
Yes.
Haynes,
Yes.
Hodge, Latour,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Vickers, Vogel,
Yes.
Whitaker. Item has been deferred.
Item has been deferred. So I have several cards here, individuals wanting to speak on tonight's item, item number B, which is the Cantrell West Retail Center. That item has been deferred. So it will not be heard tonight, should be heard at next month's commission meeting.
Excuse me, could we just ask just a point of order related to the deferral? Just to
Yes,
understand?
yes, sir.
I thought I heard Jamie say something about this deferral is the applicant's deferral or something.
Yes, in the bylaws, they're allowed to do that if it gets 8 or less, and that deferral goes against the applicant and their number of overall deferrals.
Okay, do we know what the number of overall deferrals is so far on this particular item? Because it's more than 2. And I don't know is there a total number that they're allowed or something? I don't know all the rules on that. I'm just asking to understand it.
The limit is 2. Mr. Moore is looking it up right now.
Okay.
Yeah, this application was deferred from February to March, and then March to April. So this would be the third deferral.
Okay, so that's, in the bylaws, they'd have to either waive that requirement in the bylaws, or they cannot get that third deferral.
Is that what we're up against, Mr. Collins? Do we need a motion to waive that?
Yes, that would be, the commission has the authority to waive their bylaws in any vote. So that would be a decision and a motion and a second by the commission for that purpose. If they choose not to waive it, then the item will have to be heard tonight.
All right, I'll open it up to the floor for a motion.
Well, before we move to a motion, may I ask a question, please?
Sure.
They're taking this additional deferral because of the number of attending commissioners tonight. Is that why they're requesting it?
Correct.
Okay.
There are just 8 commissioners present, and a yes vote would still require 6 commissioners to support the project. So I think they would rather take their chances with a full slate of commissioners.
I would like to point out we're going to lose one more because he's a neighbor and he'll have to abstain. So we're down one more.
Correct. Yeah.
I think Vickers just arrived.
Yes, I'm here. I had some tough technical difficulties.
Okay, we've added a commissioner, but we do have a commissioner who has already informed me that he will abstain, so we're still at that 8 number.
Mr. Chairman, I would move that the bylaws be waived and this be deferred.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Okay. Roll call vote, Mr. Thrower.
Brown,
Abstain.
Hart,
Yes.
Haynes,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
sorry, Hodge. Latour,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Vickers,
Yes.
Vogel,
No.
Whitaker. I have 6 yeses, 3 absent, and 1 no.
Okay. So did you get Mr. Vickers' vote? I didn't.
Yes, Commissioner Vickers' vote was counted.
Okay. The motion passes with 6 positive votes. The issue is deferred until next month's agenda. So,
Thank you, appreciate it.
okay, next item.
Could I just ask one more question?
You may. This is sort of an unusual
Certainly,
circumstance we're in right now.
Does this deferral, will this be possible again? In other words, will we have certainty that in May we'll actually address the issue, or could this same kind of thing happen again?
Well, so that's difficult to answer. The objective.
Obviously, if you don't have a quorum in May, that's
Right,
different.
right, yeah. In our bylaws, it does require us to give them the opportunity to defer if there are 8 commissioners or less. And that is a common sense rule because we don't, it still takes 6
I don't disagree with the
positives,
basic rule. I was listening to Jamie's explanation,
Yeah.
and just wondering where we stood.
I would say it's possible, but highly unlikely.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, next item on the agenda is item D, Track 404 Chenal Valley PCD. I will go ahead and ask the applicant to step to the podium before we have a reading on this issue, and I'll give this particular applicant the same opportunity if they wish to defer.
Commissioner Hart, thank you. We'd like to go ahead and proceed.
Okay, go ahead and proceed. Okay, we did add Vicker. With Vickers,
You still have just 8.
we still have just 8. Okay, all right. Okay, we're going to proceed with item D, so we'll have the reading of that. Mr. Moore.
Item D, file number Z9765. This is Tract 404 Chenal Valley PCD, located at the northeast corner of Highway 10 and Morgan Cemetery Road. The applicant proposes to rezone this 6.16 acre property from R2 to PCD. The eastern portion of the site will be Lot 1, which will contain 1.1 acres. It will be developed for a Little Rock Fire Station. The remaining 5.06 acres will be Lot 2 and developed as a multi-building mini warehouse development. The western 1.10 acre portion of the overall site will contain a Little Rock Fire Station. Site plan shows building setbacks of 43.9 feet from the north or rear property line, a range of 40.5 to 47.2 from the west side property line, 25 feet from the east side property line, and a front building setback ranging from 40 to 50.9 feet along the south property line. The setbacks generally comply with Highway 10 Design Overlay District, and staff supports the building setbacks for Lot 1. Site plan indicates 16 parking spaces for the fire station. Staff believes this will be sufficient to serve the use. Access to the fire station will extend from the west and north via 30-foot wide and 40-foot plus wide driveways extending from Morgan Cemetery Road. The remaining 5.06 acres will contain mini warehouse development. Building A will be a 7,260 square foot building containing an office and climate controlled storage. Item or Building B, F, and G will be standard mini warehouse buildings, and Building H will be a climate-controlled mini warehouse building. Staff supports the building setbacks for Lot 2 as well, as they also generally comply with the Highway 10 Design Overlay District. Access for Lot 2 will be from Cantrell Road to the and north via a gated driveway along Morgan Cemetery Road. Lot 2 contains 7 parking spaces for the mini warehouse use. Staff believes that will be sufficient. The applicant will make improvements to Morgan Cemetery Road and Highway 10 as shown on the proposed site plan. No sidewalk will be constructed on either street and no street lighting is proposed. Staff is supportive of the proposed improvements to the roadways as shown and will defer to the Arkansas Department of Transportation regarding any improvements to Highway 10. The applicants will also be dedicated no additional right-of-way for Morgan Cemetery Road or Highway 10. The applicants noted that a 10-foot wide easement or easements on both roadways for future sidewalk construction can be provided. Staff is supportive of the right-of-way issue and will defer to the Arkansas Department of Transportation regarding any additional right-of-way for Highway 10. The applicant is proposing to annex the property into the city of Little Rock. The annexation is currently pending with Pulaski County, and this annexation request will be forwarded to the Planning Commission at a later date. The applicant provided responses and additional information to all issues raised during staff's review of the application, and to staff's knowledge, there are no outstanding issues. Staff is supportive of the proposed PCD development to allow a fire station and mini warehouse complex. The majority of the properties in the area contain residential zoning and uses. There's also a mixture of planned developments, PDI zoning, AF, and POD zonings located in this general area. Staff believes the proposed commercial development will have no adverse impact on the general area, and staff recommends approval of the requested PCD zoning subject to compliance with the comments and conditions noted in paragraphs D, E, and F, and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Before we hear this item, I want to let both sides know we have a 20-minute time limit total for each side. So the applicant will have 20 minutes total, and all of those who speak in opposition to it will have 20 minutes total. Mr. Daters, you can go ahead and make a presentation now as the applicant if you want to, or you may defer. We do have a couple of cards in opposition.
Chairman Hart, Commissioners, I'll make just a short presentation, then defer the rest of our time to respond to any questions. My name is Tim Daters. I'm a consultant engineer with White Daters and Associates. This property is currently owned by PotlatchDeltic. The proposed plan development will divide it into 2 lots. The western lot will contain the fire station. It's approximately a 1-acre site. The eastern lot will contain the self-storage. It's approximately a 5-acre site. There'll be extensive buffering and landscaping along Highway 10. The property will be developed as part of the Chenal Valley Commercial POA and part of the overall Chenal POA. So its development will be regulated and monitored by PotlatchDeltic going forward. With me today is the fire chief, and he can answer any questions that might come up. Director Hines here is also here and has been involved in negotiations for the fire station. Initially, the fire station will have room for 2 bays, but initially we'll just have 1 piece of fire equipment, and the other bay may be used for some other type of emergency response equipment. But I think we'll defer the rest of our time, and Chief Hubbard's here as well as Director Hines to answer any questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We have 2 individuals who have filled out a card and they oppose the item, and then we have 2, one who is asking questions and then one who supports the item. So since we've sort of started with the support, why don't we call Lance Hines to the podium, who indicates he's in support of the item.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'll keep it brief. Sounds like we have some questions from some folks that live in the area about the overall design of the deal, and I will defer that to Mr. Daters. We have been seeking a site location for West Little Rock Firehouse for several years now. The neighborhood's off of Shalamont Drive, which comes out directly across from where this firehouse will be located. Mr. Daters can tell you exactly how many lots have been built out there, but it's several hundred houses over the last 5 to 6 years. Our nearest firehouse is out on Rawling Road, Station 23. It's probably the most newly constructed other than the Southwest Little Rock. We've got a very big hole, which in our fire protection for those folks, we had a total loss fire there earlier or later last year with an attic fire. So this is in my negotiations trying to find a site location. We were talking with the Little Rock School District, I mean, not the Little Rock, the Pulaski County School District about a possible site next to Robinson Elementary. And then I also approached PotlatchDeltic to see if they had property available. With this rezoning, the property is going to be donated to the city of Little Rock, the 1.1 acres, which saves the city quite a bit of funding. We used ARPA funds this past year to approve the funding for the firehouse of $1.5 million. So we are asking for approval of this as quickly as we can get it done, so we can get to work and get in this firehouse built to protect our residents out there. I appreciate a good vote, and thank you for your time and your dedication to the city.
Thank you, Director Hines. We do have a card here that just indicates questions, so why don't we call Ben Fletcher up to the podium with questions, and Mr. Thrower, we won't log his time against either the applicant or the opposition, since
my question was concerning the movement of the city limits west. Is that a proposed thing?
Yeah, I would defer to Mr. Collins about that.
Mr. Moore, Monty, is this also, if approved, that I believe that they would seek the annexation for this property into the city limits?
It's my understanding that the annexation is already at the county level,
Okay.
and it will come to the commission at a later date.
So it would just be this tract of land, this proposal, that would be proposed to be annexed. At this time, there is no other proposal to annex anything further in our ETJ for this item. Typically, annexation is handled on a tract or site-by-site basis. Voluntary annexation, where a property owner that's adjacent to, and there are several criteria that if you want to know more about what annexation is, Mr. Malone in our office can direct you to that. He's the individual over here. He can speak with you more specific about the whole process. But there's no other annexation that is proposed at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we do have two cards in opposition. Bill Lessenberry.
I feel, and my neighbors feel, that this is a very inappropriate use for this property. This property has been zoned residential for as long as I can remember, and I've been out there 45 years. The Morgan Cemetery makes a loop from one end of Highway 10 to another. And there are currently 3 houses on this piece of land. The addition of a storage unit right next door to me, besides not fitting in with the community and the neighborhood as such, would be quite a change. We would have a whole lot of traffic. We would have a whole lot of light that would be in there. There have also been drainage problems along the Morgan Cemetery Road for many years. This would not help the drainage problem at all by taking these trees and soil and stuff and turning them into concrete and asphalt. Also, I noticed that they said they weren't going to do anything about the road. Morgan Cemetery was a gravel road when I moved out there. The county eventually put chip seal over the gravel, but this road is not made for a lot of traffic. It'll start breaking down, especially as how construction equipment comes in there, and as you get more people coming through the storage unit to drive around there. So that would be another problem. There is an active cemetery on Morgan Cemetery Road. From what I can gather, looking at the plans, the exit of this storage unit would be right at the entrance to the cemetery. Therefore, if we had a cemetery, a funeral that was being set up at the cemetery, then we're going to have a conflict between people moving in and out of the storage unit and people trying to get to the cemetery to bury their loved ones. One other thing, I noticed that the western border of this property, you're only showing a 19-foot easement on the western border. It goes up to a 24-foot easement. It was my understanding that the regulations required a minimum 30-foot easement between residential property and commercial property. I know that you will ask for a variance on that. I'm here to object to that. Hopefully not, but if this place does get built, I want it to be as far away from my property as possible. One other thing is, this is kind of in a blind curve where they've got this entrance to the property. The road rises up as you're coming east on Highway 10 and you start to turn in there, you're going to have to be awful careful that there's no one coming from the west because it's going to be hard to see them. My main objection, as I say, is it's inappropriate. This property should be kept residential. You have 6 acres here. You could build 2 or 3 nice homes that would fit in with what we currently have and keep it the way it is. I understand the deal about the fire station, but there's other places you can put a fire station. And there are many, many other places that are available to put in as storage buildings. So I would just like to express my opposition to this, and hopefully you will agree with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lessenberry. Chris Thomason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I was not, unfortunately, aware of the time limitation, and if I am the only other one, I'll try to be briefer, but I do appreciate the opportunity to address the commission, and I also appreciate Mr. Thrower's responses to my earlier questions. As I said, I'm Chris Thomason. I'm joined by my wife, Penny Thomason. Our son, Alan, who's in high school here, could not be with us today because he's at a school activity. But we live at 7110 Morgan Cemetery Road. If you look at the drawing on there now, we are on the immediate east boundary of this proposed site, and we back up to Mr. Lessenberry's property. I'm originally from South Arkansas, but my wife was born and raised on this area. Her parents still live across the street. So for the last 50 plus years, we've been very familiar with the area. I've been married to Penny 27. I started chasing her about 30 years ago. So I would frequent the area. So I'm pretty familiar over the last 30 years as well. I think everyone here today can agree on a few significant points. That the proposed site, as of right now, is not in the city limits, but within your extraterritorial zone of control. The current zoning of the property, as was said earlier by staff, is R2 residential, and that approximately 95%, except for the very back corner of the proposed site, is wholly within the Highway 10 Scenic Corridor Overlay, as created by your municipal code, Section 36343. That site fronts, as you can tell, and has been discussed, not only on Highway 10, but also on Morgan Cemetery Road. and there is no planned commercial district in existence in the entire area. There is an office, there are 2 office development properties, planned office development, but this is completely, this type of zoning is not represented even in the extraterritorial zone of control. Respectfully, I would say there's no basis within the petition, as I've seen has been provided by Mr. Thrower, especially given the character of the neighborhood, to grant the change in zoning requests for the petitioner. We're quiet as a residential neighborhood that shares our space with an elementary school and also a small rural cemetery. What they are proposing would drastically change the character of our neighborhood and undermine the health, safety of our residents, Robinson School students, and travelers along Highway 10. I respect that Deltic has the right to submit this application, but they also have the burden under our municipal code to demonstrate to this commission and ultimately the board that their request is in the best interest of the health, safety, welfare of the city and our residents and our neighborhood. So they must demonstrate to you today that under the commission's guidelines and under the Highway 10 Scenic Corridor District, as well as the planned zoning districts of Article 7 of the code, they must show that their proposal is consistent with all those requirements, and specifically the Highway 10 Scenic Corridor, because those requirements are so important that our code requires that they control over all other applicable code sections in cases of a conflict. So I would like to address the application by Deltic and how it's not consistent with the purpose, intent, or the requirements of the Highway 10 Scenic Corridor District. It fails as follows. The purpose of the corridor, the essence of the code. The mini storage facility that is proposed does not protect and enhance the aesthetic and visual character of the land surrounding Highway 10. In fact, they propose to develop every square inch, except for the minimum setbacks, into buildings and complete hard surfaces. Their design also appears to incorporate in the setbacks the backs of steel buildings as part of their security fencing. Their development plan is not sensitive to the natural foliage and terrain of the area. That parcel is the prime example of the characteristics of the area that the overlay district was created to protect. It is completely filled with large hardwoods, all of which will be completely eliminated in their plan. Other more consistent uses, I'm for those, could easily incorporate the requirements of the overlay district in their planning. They will then completely flatten, or to a certain degree flatten, as best I can tell, the natural terrain that breaks in opposite directions, east and west, because of the nature of their proposed use. That will not only change the aesthetics, but it will further complicate, it has already been discussed, surface water runoff issues that are serious in the area. Their proposed use clearly violates the site design and development standards of the Highway 10 Scenic Corridor District. Under the code, their site is considered one tract of 2 lots, totaling 6.16 acres. The code further mandates that only 1 building can exist for every 2 acres. Therefore, only 3 buildings, including the firehouse, shall be allowed. Their plan depicts 7 buildings, as best I can tell, with 2 of those being part of the firehouse complex. The application also does not meet the purpose or the requirements for rezoning as a planned commercial district under Article 7 of your code. It fails in numerous ways. It is not in the best interest of the health, safety, and welfare of the area. The main aspect of the proposal is a large public storage facility. The facility's customers' entry is located on the apex of a blind curve on Highway 10. It will likely create a significant risk for motorists because of increased vehicles, especially trucks hauling things, on and off the highway in that curve. The main entrance is within 800 feet of the elementary school student drop-off area. Every morning and every afternoon, traffic is at a stop and go, requiring traffic officers to ensure the safety of the students and drivers. The type and location of this development will greatly increase the risk to all during that time of the school day. Their proposal also has an entrance on Morgan Cemetery side of the property. Morgan Cemetery is a 1.5 lane at best, chip and seal lane. You cannot pass easily in the smaller forms of vehicles on that road if you meet in opposite directions. Because of the nature of this facility and the difficulty of turning safely with a trailer and other types of vehicles into this facility, that will press more traffic onto that road and will create significant issues for those residents and our children who use that road to walk, ride their bicycles, and otherwise. It has a significant impact on both sides of the traffic flow, and significantly increases risk to our school, our cemetery entrance, which is directly across from, and also our residents. I did ask Mr. Thrower if a traffic study had been done to address these safety concerns, and it's my understanding that no such traffic study has been concluded of any type. The proposed use is not compatible with the surrounding areas as is required by code. Like I said, we're a quiet, wooded residential area with an elementary school and cemetery. The two office uses that front on Highway 10 are not commercial with traffic and do not extend all the way back to Morgan Cemetery Road. They seek to create a parking lot with storage buildings in the middle of that neighborhood fronting on both Highway 10 and the residential street completely. No other office use does that. It is not harmonious with the character of our neighborhood, is required explicitly by code. Our area is settled and quiet and supports a great environment for the elementary school and the cemetery. But those uses also support the quiet enjoyment of our homes and our families. They do not generate traffic or disruption to our families during the evening hours or the weekends. That is the exact opposite of the business model of this storage facility. It will also create a negative impact on future and development in the area, which is prohibited by code. The highest and best use of this property and this tract supports residential development. Recent sales in the area support that position totally. Deltic has also taken advantage of that fact directly across the highway. It undermines a desirable and stable environment as required by the code. That is the very nature of a storage facility. I'm the former elected prosecutor of the 8th Judicial District. I don't have studies to support this exact numbers, but I can tell you these storage facilities attract property theft. They also attract large numbers of people in and out. During hours when families are using their property for recreation and for family purposes, after work, on the weekends when people are moving. That will substantially impact the desirability and the stability of our neighborhood and of our homes as an environment. If this application is approved today, it will be only for the sole benefit of the applicant. I understand the firehouse's location is there, and I'm curious as to whether or not that gift is contingent upon the approval of this tract for the mini storage building use. If that is the case, I would argue to the commission respectfully, that is no gift at all. This is prohibited under the code. There are two other very large mini storage facilities within close proximity in the commercial areas. One at Chenal 10, at the Chenal intersection of Highway 10, and one at Ferndale Cutoff. Very large. The need is met for storage facilities in our community. It is not necessary to overwhelm and overcome all the requirements of the code in order to present this opportunity to Deltic or its developer. If the city plans to annex the area, then the application undermines code protections in place to ensure that after we are annexed, there is substantial planning and a public hearing process as to change that R2 status. That process is required in the code for annexation. And if that is the process we're going to go through, we welcome it as neighbors. We welcome the city discussion. We welcome the opportunity to be heard and have a reasoned, code-based approach to protecting our homes and the total environment of our neighborhood. If you allow this spot zoning to occur at this point, when the developer knows that there is at the county an annexation proposal, they are simply trying to avoid the process that's put into code to protect the very residents that depend on it. Lastly, I'll say Deltic is relying on the zoning application process to try to change our zoning so that they or their buyer will make an investment in a storage facility in the future. We as residents are relying on the protections that the code provides us for the investments we have already made in our homes, in our neighborhood, the most significant investment any of us as a family have ever made. Our reliance was completely reasonable. We are zoned R2. We were when we purchased our home. The property next door was owned by Deltic, who we all know specializes in residential development. Deltic hosts a website in which they list all their properties statewide that are available for purchase to the public. I check that website on occasion for my purposes and for my purposes in South Arkansas. They have never, to my knowledge, listed this site for sale to the public. We had absolutely no notice that this potential outcome was possible. Given all the code requirements that I referred to, given the nature of R2, given the scenic corridor protections, and given the absolute nature of our neighborhood, on its face, the application presents no basis to void our reliance on code, and it will change the basic character of our neighborhood. Based on code, the facts presented, and the health and safety of our neighborhood, I request that you disapprove the development proposal contained in Z9765. Thank you, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Any questions from the commissioners of the opposition?
Yes, Co-Chair, this is Michael Vickers. And I just wanted to ask the gentleman here, I know he stated a lot about the safety and health, and he just discussed on the codes. Do you have any fact-based proof from a third-party source to back up any allegations you've made today dealing with the with this accordance of Z9765?
I'm sorry, Mr. Commissioner, your question is, do I have a fact-based source to back up which suggestion that I made?
Well, you stated several things about the safetiness of the neighborhood, and being that this is not zoned for it, and I believe that they're coming forward to get it zoned now for this project.
Yes, sir.
And you stated about it could be, harmful things that could happen for the safety of the neighbors, the children, et cetera.
Right.
And I was just trying to see, do you have any kind of fact-based proof from a third-party source that would back up the information that you stated that, there's a strong possibility that this could happen or would happen if this project is done?
Yes, Commissioner Vickers, I appreciate the question. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I just was made aware of this last week, and I immediately reached out to Mr. Thrower. So I have not been able to reach out to the Little Rock Police Department and others. For example, the traffic and safety issue, I can just tell you based upon my experience. There's a police report as of probably 4 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago, of my own mother-in-law being sideswiped in that blind curve because she has to stop there and turn to it would be the north in the same exact area. There are those of us that have lived or had family in the area know that there are numerous accidents there because of that blind curve with traffic stopping each way. And I work in the Heights area, so I am in the school traffic every morning. And so I experience what it's like to be there with students. I do realize, and I think common sense would tell us, they have not revealed to me the number of units that are going to be in the mini storage facility, but my experience previously in private practice as an attorney is that those units are usually rented by one individual or company each, so the number of units you have is normally the number of customers you have. So that, I think, just on that experience, I would tell you, however many units is going to create the amount of traffic. The last point I would make out of respect, Commissioner Vickers, is the residents, myself included, do not have the burden of proof to show the impact. That is found within the code, and that's why that's one of the first questions I asked Mr. Thrower. Anytime we make any type of change to an area along a highway like this, especially one that is within actually less than 800 feet, if I measured right, of a school entrance. If we put a traffic light up, we would have to do a traffic study to ensure the safety of those individuals, even if the school wasn't present, even if we didn't have blind curves. What they are trying to do is their burden. It is so in opposition to the uses that are there now. It is their obligation to show that they're not going to have, and they're going to put practices into place that will ensure that these issues do not happen and these injuries don't occur. So it's their burden, Commissioner Vickers.
Thank you.
Any other questions before the applicant comes back up? Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, applicant.
If you could put the site plan back up on the screen. Excuse me. Part of what we've worked on this application was trying to minimize any impacts that would happen on the eastern portion of Morgan Cemetery Road. Part of the concern with the fire chief was that we realign the intersection on the western end of Morgan Cemetery Road. And so what the proposal is to realign that intersection to bring it out at a better angle, to provide better visibility than what's existing there right now. The fire trucks will exit the west side of the fire station onto the new reconstructed portion of Morgan Cemetery Road and proceed out to Highway 10. The entrance to the fire station on the north side off of Morgan Cemetery Road will be for fire department staff, and also when the fire trucks return, they'll enter there so they can pull into the station without having to back into the station. There'll be a very limited traffic there, just limited to the fire crews that man the station at that location. We are going to extend our improvements to Morgan Cemetery Road a little bit additionally to the east to get to what is a secondary driveway to the self-storage area. That driveway will normally be closed and locked. It'll only be used if there's a larger type box truck or something that needs to come in that entrance, so the use will be extremely rare and very limited. The bulk of the access to the self-storage will be off the southern entrance on Highway 10. The typical storage facility, something like this, probably has somewhere between 20 to 40 vehicle trips per day. That would be the equivalent of somewhere around 7 or 8 residential units. In other words, they've got actually less traffic generated than a residential use. The large building is going to be climate controlled. There'll be several doors around the building that allow access to the building, but the bulk of the storage facility on that building will be inside and enclosed. The site will be heavily landscaped and will have to comply with the Chenal landscaping requirements, which are considerably more than required by the city or the Highway 10 overlay. PotlatchDeltic owns the property on the other side of Highway 10. They own additional properties in the neighborhood, and I'm sure would not allow anything to be developed that they would think would devalue the property in the neighborhood. The construction traffic to this site for the self-storage will take access directly off of Highway 10. The fire station site the first thing we'll probably do is reconstruct Morgan Cemetery Road, and then the access will be off of that. There is a large creek that runs through the site and a drainage that will be addressed as part of the construction, and all the construction plans will be submitted to and approved by the City of Little Rock before any work is done. The stormwater detention ordinance will apply to this property once it's annexed. And what that means is that for the 25-year event, the pre and post-development discharge will not increase or change. Any lighting in the self-storage area will be low level and directed towards the interior of the site. The fire station will have typical lighting like you might see for a residential structure. Again, we've worked with the staff to come up with a proposal that staff supports. I think the key to it is to limiting the access to Morgan Cemetery Road to the west end. I think only minimal traffic, if any, as a result of this development will enter on the east end of Morgan Cemetery Road. And do we have a drawing that shows the configuration of Morgan Cemetery as it loops around? It may show on the zoning map. From this one, you can see over by the school, the eastern exit to Morgan Cemetery Road, where the arrow points and says this site where the arrow touches the red boundary. That's probably about the limit of the, maybe a little bit past there would be the limit of the improvements to Morgan Cemetery Road. So all of Morgan Cemetery Road to the east of that point will remain like it is. And I think that the majority of the access both to the fire station and will be from the west end, and the majority of the access to the self-storage will be from Highway 10. I think that we've submitted this as a planned development. What you see constructed on the plan sheet is what will be built. We're not asking to rezone it to a straight zoning. We think that a planned development in this location on Highway 10 is appropriate, and we've worked hard to get staff support, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions from commissioners of the applicant or staff?
Yes, Co-Chair, this is Michael Vickers.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, I just had a quick question for the gentleman that just was speaking. He said extremely rare usage. How do you define that? Because I just want to go back to what the other gentleman said. I did not write down his name, but he was speaking of something that definitely caught my attention. And, we got to have concerns for the neighbors and the children in that area. And I was wanting to know, what is the extremely rare usage? And
somebody
what is his definition of that?
Somebody who's lost and has made a wrong turn coming out of one of these facilities. The self-storage exits directly onto Highway 10. It's extremely unlikely that anyone using that facility would exit out the east side of Morgan Cemetery Road. And I don't believe that any of the employees of the fire department will actually use the eastern portions of Morgan Cemetery Road. I think they'll enter and exit exclusively from the west end.
Okay, so no employees or agencies thereof or agents thereof of this facility will be coming in or out of that area?
They'd have no reason to. It's a further, more circuitous route, and the pavement is narrow. The access is much easier off of Highway 10 or the west end of Morgan Cemetery Road.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Brown.
Just for clarification, you said the exit on Morgan Cemetery Road is going to be gated. Did I hear that correctly?
That's correct. It'll be typically be closed. It will not be an automatic gate. It'll be a gate which is typically locked and closed.
Okay, thank you.
The fire station will not have a gate, though. The fire station, their driveway will be ungated.
Ms. Thomas, are you trying to comment?
I had a question. He spoke of the metal buildings will be the backing or the fencing for this development. Is there not any natural landscaping that's going to be used as the buffer? Looking at that site plan, it looked like there was some type of natural vegetation around it. Is that what's going to be put there?
They're in all likelihood, the bulk of the larger trees will be removed, but they will come back in with dense evergreens planting and screening to screen the buildings that abut the property lines.
When you say likelihood, is that part of the development plan to ensure that there is natural vegetation or some type of plants put in to have natural buffer?
Yeah, the Chenal Valley ACC will require us to plant enough permanent evergreen plantings to screen the buildings from view from those sides, yes.
So is it currently, today, part of the development plan?
Yes. We'll have dense evergreen screening along the east side and the north side of this site.
Dense evergreen, okay.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the Z9765 as stated by staff, all comments and conditions.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Brown?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Haynes?
Yes.
Hodge? Latour?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Vickers?
Yes.
Vogel?
Yes.
Whitaker? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, next item I have on the agenda is item number 4. Is that what you've got, Monty?
Yes, sir.
Okay, before we ask for you to read that, we'll offer the same opportunity to this applicant that we have to the other applicants, given the fact that we just have 8 planning commissioners here and 6 votes are required to approve any measures. So if I could have the applicant approach, please, and I'm just going to ask you if you want to defer or if you want to move forward with tonight's presentation. This is the rezoning from R2 to R-7A, 16725 Crystal Valley Road. It's item 4 on the agenda, Z9770. So do you want to be heard tonight or defer until next month?
I'm going to be here.
Want to be heard tonight? Okay. Thank you very much. With that, we'll have Mr. Moore read staff's write-up of this particular agenda item.
This item is item number 4, file number Z9770, a rezoning from R2 to R7A located at 16725 Crystal Valley Road. The applicant is proposing to rezone this 0.62 acre property located at 16725 Crystal Valley from R2 Single Family District to R7A Manufactured Home District to allow the placement of one single-wide manufactured home. The property is currently undeveloped. The majority of the properties to the east, west, and south contain R2 zoning and uses. There are some properties to the north that contain a mixture of commercial and office uses and zoning. The city's future land use plan designates this property as residential low density. The requested R7A does not require a change to the plan. The applicant is proposing to place a 76-foot by 15.75-foot single-wide manufactured home near the front portion of the property. The manufactured home will contain an attached 10-foot by 20-foot deck at the front and a 4-foot by 8-foot deck in the rear. The manufactured home will be located 129 feet back from the front or north property line. The manufactured home will comply with all other ordinance required setbacks. The applicant will also place a 10-foot by 10-foot storage unit at the northeast corner of the mobile home. The location of the storage unit also complies with the required setbacks. Staff is supportive of the requested R7A zoning. Staff views the request as reasonable. The property is located within the city's extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction. The proposed rezoning is consistent with the land use pattern in the area. There are existing single-wide manufactured homes in the general area of the proposed site. Also, the Crook Mobile Home Park is located approximately 1,000 feet to the west. Staff recommends approval of the CUP to allow the placement of a single-wide manufactured home on the subject property, subject to the following conditions: compliance with the comments and conditions noted in paragraph E and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report, and compliance with the manufactured home minimum siding standards as found in section 36-262D2 of the city zoning ordinance.
Okay, thank you very much. And you are Mr.,
Julio Reyes.
say that a little louder.
Julio Reyes.
Okay, all right. You can, I do have several cards here that have 3 cards specifically that are in opposition to this. So you can either present now, or you can wait and hear what they have to say and then speak after them. It's up to you.
I speak after them, so
After them,
I can
okay.
answer the questions.
All right, I have a card here from Jesse Wilder. Jesse Wilder. You don't look like Jesse Wilder.
He and his wife had to leave. They just said that they were here to support their neighbors that were in opposition.
Okay, all right, so they were in support of it. Okay, they were supporting their neighbor. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. Tammy Johnson. At 14114 Crystal Valley Road.
Yes, sir. Sorry. Oh.
Thank you.
All righty. Crystal Valley Road is populated by older and new houses on acreage. The pastures on this road have horses, cattle, and ponds on them, and we still have well water. It's not a road that has mobile homes, except for the older mobile home with the rusted roof that now sits in the curve of Crystal Valley Road and Rains Road. Not too long ago, someone else sought rezoning to allow a mobile home on this road before they moved their mobile home, and we were notified by mail, and the residents came to that meeting in opposition. And at that time, the commission voted no to rezoning for that mobile home. This person has already moved his mobile home and now seeks rezoning. There are a few mobile homes that are on down Rains Road. They're further down Rains Road, which is not on Crystal Valley Road. And these mobile homes have been there a very long time. They have not been very well taken care of, and I'm not sure that but one of them is even lived in. But as I've stated, they are not on Crystal Valley Road. They're on down Rains Road, and as I said, have been there a very long time. I would ask the commission to please vote no once again to rezoning for a mobile home on Crystal Valley Road. And I would thank you very much for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Melody Parsley.
Yes, Melody Parsley. I live on Crystal Valley Road and have lived there for over 60 years. I'm also one of 6 generations that's lived there. We have a very good neighborhood, a very tight-knit neighborhood. And I wanted to point out, as noted in your staff report, the vast majority of properties on Crystal Valley Road are residential. Stick-built homes. There are some commercials and a very few office. However, these were brought into the zoning during the extraterritorial zoning that I believe happened, around 20 years ago. Crook Mobile Home Park, which was also noted in your staff report, is around 1,000 feet west of the property that we're speaking of. This mobile home park has been there for over 50 years, was also there and grandfathered in during the territorial rezoning. So Crystal Valley, however, directly across the street from the property that we're speaking of, in the, I would say, less than 6-year span, 6 homes have been built. These homes are between 2,000 and 4,000 square feet, again, directly across the street from the proposed site. As an active member of the Crystal Valley POA, we feel that the addition of manufactured home rating in the zoning area is not in the best interest of this community. I would also, commissioners, like to point out, unfortunately, some discrepancies in your staff report. You will take note on number C, I believe. It states that under neighborhood notifications, all owners of property located and all neighborhood associations registered with the City of Little Rock were notified of this public hearing. I'm assuming that your staff looks at the listing of neighborhood associations on the City of Little Rock website. I checked, Crystal Valley POA was listed with a correct address. Also, Plantation Acres was listed with the correct address. We were not notified of this public hearing. And I will tell you, in less than a year and a half, I have been before this commission, and we had this same conversation, and I was assured by your members and staff that this problem would be rectified, and here I am a year and a half later, and it has not. I would also like to mention, under the fire department, there is no comment, no writing whatsoever. And as a past board member of our Crystal Valley Fire Department, it's very concerning to me. I would like to ask the staff and the commission, was our fire department even notified of the application? Or maybe appropriately, was an attempt made to notify the fire department?
Lonnie?
Not that I'm aware of.
Mr. Chairman, I think that this is a procedure that needs to be improved drastically, especially for this commission to make statements that are blatantly untrue. We were not notified, the POAs were not notified, and the fire department was not notified. Thank you.
Any questions for Ms. Parsley? Is that
Yes.
right? Any questions for her while she remains at the podium? Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, could I have some sort of assurance that the process might be improved in the future?
Well, I do want to, I tell you what, when we get to the end of this process, I would like for staff to comment on your concerns. That is, so typically utilities, fire departments, Central Arkansas Transit, all of those things are notified. And we normally do a pretty good job about notifying POAs as well. So I'll ask for their comments at the end. Let's go ahead and hear from the applicant at this time.
Okay. I'm sorry. We had homeowners here that were going to speak, and I'd like to ask them to stand up. Their job prevented them from getting here by 4 o'clock, and their card was denied. But we had other neighbors that were going to speak in opposition.
We'll note that. Let's go ahead and hear from the applicant right now. And because this is the opportunity that you have to just speak to some of the concerns of the neighbors regarding the placement of your home.
Okay, well, I live at Crystal Valley Road as well. I live at 17224 Crystal Valley, and I know for sure there's another mobile homes. Don't have a long time they move over there. That's why I try to put the mobile home over there because I just want to live with my daughter and my wife. I just have one little daughter. That's it. So the point they say they need to increase the value or the status of the community, I'm agree with that. But that's why I want to, start rebuilding there because that property was abandoned for at least 5 years with burglars over there, a lot of trash over there, and people just coming during the night and doing like vandalism on all those properties. So since I get the property, I just try to keep everything clean. I try to improve the image of the community. So if they have any concern, I can talk to them, or they can tell me why they expect it from me, and then I'm happy to try to accommodate to them. I mean, I don't want to be like the bad neighbor, the bad person over there. I personally, I never had problems with any of my neighbors. I never been on problems with anyone. I try to help my community. On the letters they send for the community, I never receive. I am part of that neighborhood, and I never receive a letter or some kind of invitation to the neighborhood. So I don't know. That's why I did. I don't know what they're talking about. They have that neighborhood reunions and talking about the mobile homes. Because if I have receive any of those letters, for sure, right now I have the knowledge they don't like the mobile home, so I never attempt to put a mobile home over there if I knew that. But if they say they call in all the community, I'm part of that neighborhood, and I never have any letter, any invitation to go to discuss the concerns of the neighborhood. But I'm willing to do it. I'm living there. I want my community to be safe, and I want to be part of that. I want to help as much as and everything is in my hands. I can do it to help the neighborhood.
Thank you. Any questions of the applicant or of staff from the commissioners?
I have a question. How long have you lived in that neighborhood?
I've been living now about 8 years on 17224.
And how far away are you moving from your current residence?
From the current residence is about 500 feet.
5 miles?
No, feet.
Oh, 500 feet.
Like by 500 feet. I live close to, I'm neighbor from the church on my left side. On my right side, I just have a new neighbor. They just put a mobile home over there. In front of me, I have a construction, and it's a new big house. I know it's about more than $1 million cost the house, and I never had troubles or problems with the neighbors, with my neighbors.
Thank you.
Chair.
Other questions, Mr. Brown?
When did you purchase this property?
I have here the paperwork. I don't remember but I bought it last year.
And one of the neighbors said that there's already a mobile home on there. Was that home there when you bought it, or did you move it there?
No, it was old home, but it was totally destroyed. The foundation was falling apart, and was a lot of big trees, dead trees. That was in danger of fall. I have a neighbor on the left side of the property, and most of the trees was falling down that direction. So I removed the trees. I knocked down the bathhouse and the foundation, and I tried to clean out.
Okay, but my question is, you purchased the property last year. You've moved a mobile home on there since then prior to zoning. Is that what I'm hearing? Is that correct, or is that incorrect?
If I moved the mobile home after?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's already there?
No. When I bought the property, it was another house. Was on.
But you placed it on the property prior to this meeting? Yeah. Any other questions? Questions for staff? I do want to give staff an opportunity to respond to Ms. Parsley's comments about not notifying the POA. I don't know. Y'all want to comment on that?
Well, if they're looking for the stuff, so I'm going to give them a little more time to look. So, Chair, if I may, I will just address what is required per state law.
Sure.
And the Planning Commission bylaws for notification. to rezone a property, there is public notification per state law. The only requirement per state law is that it is posted in a circulation newspaper of prominent circulation, a minimum of 15 days prior to the meeting. That was done. Staff does that, and we receive all of those postings. So that, by state law, is the only requirement that is needed to rezone a property. All other requirements are contained within our bylaws, and that's where you get the feet, so many feet notification. There is nothing in the zoning codes that neighborhood associations are to be notified. We notify all neighborhood associations on file as we state. What we do is we take all the emails, we copy them, we put them in the Outlook. Now, one deal is that we put it in there as a blind carbon copy so that everybody doesn't get all the emails associated with it on there. And we have seen in some times that whether you put it in there or whether it goes into a carbon copy or a two, depends on the email server that is receiving what may be considered a mass email. We cannot control technology and want an email server that somebody may be on that receives that and may mark that as spam or some other type of deal that may not go through, even at that email server. And then also, if it does go through, it may get put into an automated spam folder. We have seen that with some of the entities that we send that with, be it neighborhood associations or individuals that have asked for that email address. So it could be other measures other than us that is outside of our control on whether they receive the emails that we send. So with that, Brad, have you?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, we just went over the email that was sent out. The three organizations that were mentioned, two of the people that were listed on the website for Plantation Acres, POA. Monty, what was the other one that?
Plantation Acres POA in Crystal Valley, they were both notified via email. And then Plantation Acres HOA, we do not have an email on file for them.
And it's, we take that from the city's website, and it is incumbent on the organization to update their information. And so that's where staff gets the email addresses and how we send it out.
In regards to all these notices, I just want the record to be abundantly clear. The applicant has met the noticing requirements.
That's correct.
And we have proof of that.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
This is Commissioner Thomas. I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner Thomas.
The applicant said that when he purchased the property, there was a dilapidated property there, and he said something about he restored or put the mobile home on the foundation. I had a question for staff. So was a mobile home put on the old foundation that was already existing on the property?
No.
Or
No,
no?
I removed the old foundation because it was unsafe. Because the house was falling down, and I removed completely the foundation, and I actually use heavy equipment to make sure everything is gonna be safe now. So the old foundation I removed it because it was falling down. Was no point on putting something over there because it's really dangerous.
Okay.
Anyone else? Oh. Okay, we do have time left for those in opposition, so if you'll come up to the mic, please, before you ask.
I just want to be clear. So your notification of property owners in the area within 200 feet, that is made by certified mail. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, but you're saying that notification of POAs are not certified mail. They're only by email?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I would, just as reference, I think that would be worth duly noting in your statement, because your statement in the staff report does not indicate that at all. And I will go on the record as saying that our 2 POAs in question did not receive either of the emails. Whoever's fault that is, I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm just saying we didn't get them.
Yes, ma'am, but we do have proof that they were sent to those
Okay.
email addresses that were listed.
Yeah, that may be a policy point we need to look at with respect to how we notify HOAs. I don't think that's ever come up before, so that may be something that I think staff probably has that on their agenda to talk about after this meeting. Okay, I would entertain a motion on this one.
I'm sorry, this is Commissioner Thomas. I'm sorry, I have one more question.
Oh, go ahead.
And this is for staff. Let me know if it's an appropriate question or not. If in the event this applicant's application is not approved, and with the mobile home already being established on the property, what happens then?
Commissioner Thomas, if this application is not approved by this commission, the applicant does have the right to appeal that, I believe, to the city board. Otherwise, it would be an enforcement issue, and he would be given a notice to remove the mobile home or manufactured home from the site.
The entire home?
Yes.
Okay.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Will you come to the podium, please? Did you fill out a card and I just missed it?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Please make your comments brief if you don't mind.
I'll try to do that. Okay, my question is this rezoning for the entire area? Is this just for this gentleman? Are we going to have mobile homes everywhere, or is it just this one mobile home that he apparently is intending to do a very good job of refurbishing and putting a roof and permanent siding and so forth on? So the rezoning, does it apply to just his property or that entire area?
This is just the property that he owns.
Okay.
This is a specific rezoning.
That's my question.
Mr. Chair, also to clarify, the R7A zoning is for one manufactured home on the one piece of property.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any further questions? A motion, please.
I move to approve item Z9770 with all staff comments and conditions.
A motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Okay, roll call vote, Mr. Thrower.
Brown?
Yes.
Hart?
No.
Haynes?
Yes.
Hodge? Latour?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Vickers? Commissioner Vickers, can you repeat your response, please?
No.
Thank you. Vogel?
Yes.
Whitaker's absent. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yeses, 1, 2 noes, 2 absent.
Okay, motion passes. The item is approved. Moving on to item 5, is the applicant present for item 5, the El Cristal Event Center? If you would come to the podium, please. And I'm just going to ask you guys the same thing we've asked the other applicants tonight due to the fact that we just have 8 commissioners present, 6 votes are required. Do you want us to go ahead and hear it, or do you want us to defer it for a month?
We'd like to hear it.
You'd like to go ahead and hear it. Okay, first we'll have the reading from Mr. Moore, and then we'll call you back up in just a second. Or you can remain at the podium if you want to. This won't take long.
Item number 5, file number Z2204B. This is the El Cristal Event Center, PDC, located at 7314 Geyer Springs Road. The applicant proposes to rezone this 0.914 acre property from C4 commercial to PDC planned development commercial to allow the use of the existing building on the property as an events venue. Again, the property is located at 7314 Geyer Springs, which is south of the Forbing Road Geyer Springs intersection. The property is currently developed, containing a 6,875 square foot commercial building, paved parking, and access drive from Geyer Springs. The entire property is paved with a small lawn area to the east bordering Geyer Springs. Site plan shows an existing parking lot configuration of 50 spaces with 48 regular spaces and 2 handicap spaces. Staff believes the current number of parking spaces will be sufficient to serve the proposed use. The applicant notes that the building is currently vacant and will require no grading, paving, or construction changes to the property. The applicant proposes to utilize the structure as a social event center for weddings, birthdays, graduations, baby showers, family reunions, work meetings, and small gatherings. The applicant notes that the building will be available for rent 7 days a week from 8 a.m. to midnight, and no events will be held in the space that requires admission fee, so there'll be no ticketed events. The applicant also proposes the structure to have a maximum occupancy of 100 persons and states that no food, beverage, or alcoholic beverages will be provided at the events and that there could be live music at some of the events. The applicant provided responses and additional information to all issues raised during staff's review of the application. The applicant is requesting no variances with the PDC. Staff is supportive of this request to allow the development of an events venue in the existing commercial building. Staff views the request as reasonable. The property is in an area surrounded by similar uses and zoning with similar commercial developments adjacent to the property to the northwest and south along Geyer Springs Road. Staff believes the proposed use will have no adverse impact on the surrounding properties, and staff recommends approval of the requested PDC zoning to allow the proposed use subject to compliance with the comments and conditions outlined in paragraphs D and E and the staff analysis of the agenda staff report.
Okay, thank you, Monty. Who are we speaking with here? Who's the applicant?
I'm Gabriela Robledo, and I'm the applicant.
Okay, great. So the way this works is you can speak to the commissioners about your project, or you can just wait to hear the objectors to the project speak first, and then you can respond to them. That's normally what most people do, is respond to the folks.
We wait.
Okay, you wait. Okay. Troy Leahy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ladies and gentlemen, Little Rock Planning Commission and planning staff, I'm Troy Leahy, and I'm Vice President of Southwest Little Rock United for Progress. At our regular scheduled meeting on April the 3rd at the Southwest Community Center, our group voted to oppose this application. There were too many questions about hours of operation, the security, and where they would be allowed to bring in alcohol or not, and do they have an alcohol permit from ABC. Now, as some of you know, I have been active in these event centers before, and we run one of them for a while, and sooner or later, you're going to have to crack down on that alcohol business. 6 months to a year. There are 4 other event centers along Geyer Springs from 65th Street to Baseline Road. And a lot of our group felt like this was enough. The site plan does not show how many parking spaces will be required. It does not have a table showing how many parking spaces are available. And we request that this application as submitted will be denied. And I understand it has to go to the city board for approval. Am I correct in that? It has to go to the city board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leahy. Okay, applicants, if you'd like to respond to what Mr. Leahy has mentioned, you're more than welcome to step back up.
You want me to speak, or do you want to speak?
Go ahead, you can do it for me.
My name's Andrew Reich. I'm an engineer that's worked with Ms. Robledo on the application with Harbor Environmental. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before the commission. And this facility is a community facility. It will allow for a safe place for families and the community to come together to have events such as family-friendly events, birthday parties, weddings, those types of events. It's currently a vacant building that's providing no use, so it will be transformed into a useful space that will benefit the community and generate income for the city. Also, with regards to some of the concerns that were brought up by Mr. Leahy, security was one issue. To our knowledge, this facility is not required by city ordinance to have security personnel for events. As far as alcohol, there will be, the facility is not selling alcohol or food. And of course, all city and state laws regarding alcohol will be abided by. With regards to the other event centers, I can't speak to that. I mean, they're there. I don't know that there's a city requirement for a maximum number of event centers in a certain area or a certain type of business. But in any case, with regards to parking spaces, we believe that we did with our site plan show the proper number of parking spaces for the square footage of the building that's to be used, and the proper number of handicapped parking spaces. I guess, from my point of view, the intent is to provide a family-friendly atmosphere and facility that will be a benefit and attractive improvement to the city and to Gower Springs. Thank you for allowing us to talk.
Yeah,
Gabriella, would you like to?
To say thank you, and just to, like Mr. Andrews said, we just provide the building. We don't provide alcohol. We don't sell alcohol. We don't cook the food or service the food. It's just the property. Thank you.
Okay. The commissioners got any questions for the applicant?
More of a comment, if you don't mind. Yep. Usually we have people coming, or applications coming before us to increase the usage. And in my mind, this is actually a decrease in the usage from a C4 and revitalizes a property that's not being used right now. So anyway, thank you, applicant.
Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve item Z2204-B as in all staff comments and concerns.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, Mr. Thrower.
Yes, sir. Brown?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Haynes?
Yes.
Hodge? Latour?
Yes.
McDonald?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Vickers?
Yes.
Vogel?
Yes.
Whitaker? The motion passes unanimously.
Motion passes. Thank you very much. That's the last regular agenda item I'm showing, Monty. Is that correct? other than citizen communication?
That is correct. I believe you do have one person that wants to speak in citizen communication.
Okay. We're at that point in our agenda where we do citizen communication. So is it open mic or do they have to fill out a card? I don't think I have a card, but if you're a citizen and you want to communicate, come on up to the mic, please.
Well, we've got the dimensions.
Great, and Mr. Leahy, if y'all could move on out, discuss. That's okay.
Good evening.
That's all right. Can you state your name and address, please?
My name is William Gould. I live at 411 Sunny Mead Drive, Little Rock, Arkansas.
Thank you.
I'm actually asking a couple questions relating to consent deferral for Z3748A. My first question is, how many deferrals has this agenda item had?
Yeah, Jamie, you want to speak to that? I don't know that we can comment on specific items.
I mean, essentially, any item that is on the agenda cannot be an item discussed at citizen communication.
Can I ask how many deferrals are allowed for any agenda item that comes before the commission before it is removed from consideration?
If you give me a minute, I will pull it up.
I do want to talk a little bit about this generally, not specifically, and I will not expect answers, but I am the newest director of the Briarwood Area Neighborhood Association, and I've been speaking to many of my neighbors, and we are not excited about this proposed development.
Sir, I'm sorry, Chair.
Yeah, I'm not even
We
sure
cannot
which
talk
development
about this item either for or against because the applicant has been deferred, the applicant is not here, and that'd be unfair representation.
Yeah.
And it cannot be heard. If he wants to talk about another item, or not an item, something to bring back before the commission or topic that is concerned that is not addressing the item, they may, but they cannot speak about the item.
I will revise my comments. I would like to speak to the approval of any self-storage facilities in Little Rock. Is that acceptable?
Yes, you may.
While that is included with that, its other concern is with the environmental impact of having climate-controlled storage where nobody's there. According to a study commissioned by the Federal Advisory Council on Historic Preservation, 80 million BTUs of energy are embodied in a typical 50,000 square foot commercial building, the equivalent of 640,000 gallons of gasoline. I think this is something to consider when we are approving these types of buildings in the city of Little Rock, as any excess energy use is going into our air, affecting our air quality, as well as impacting our duty to be stewards of the environment. Do you have an answer on the number
For
of
the deferrals, the criteria is that the applicant has two deferrals. They can request two, but they shall not have more than two. But that's a bylaw, and as happened today earlier, the commission can waive its bylaws. The commission can defer an item, and there is no limit to that number of deferrals. It is deferred, it just says by cause. So by cause could be multiple things. So if the commission wanted something to be studied or gave staff specific instructions to look at certain things and deferred an item until that is completed, then that could be continual deferral until that specific task is completed that has been requested.
So if a applicant is not meeting the duties to be considered, is that considered a deferral on their part?
If they do not meet the criteria as far as notification,
Yes.
the criteria for notification in the bylaws, it will have to be deferred, and that is it cannot be heard. Mr. Moore, do we charge that to the applicant or is that staff deferral?
I think we typically charge that to the applicant because it's usually the applicant's fault that the notices did not go out correctly.
Thank you. I would urge the commission to uphold the bylaws in the instance of any applicant not following the proper procedures of communication to surrounding property owners, as well as those upcoming on their limit of deferrals. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Before we And any other citizen communication. We're running out of citizens, so I don't think there's going to be. Before we adjourn, Dr. Benton, our distinguished chairperson, got a better gig and is no longer with us. And so the process going forward, now, Jamie, you mentioned something about, so we need to elect officers at some point. Do our bylaws speak to when we need to do that? And
No, it does not. Essentially, right now, you are the chair. That's the vice chair's role. You will assume that role for the remainder of the year. So that is your role. The only vote that we will have will be for vice chair. So we will seek for nominations and vote.
Okay, all right. Well, can we go ahead and take care of that tonight, the vice chair?
You may.
part of it? Well, we might as well, since we're here and we're not holding any citizens up. Monty?
This is Commissioner Thomas. Should we possibly hold that at another time when we have more commissioners available, since we're short in commissioners tonight?
That makes sense. We've got 8 of the 11, and only 10, where we only have 10 commissioners. Yeah, so we've got 8 of 10. So yeah, we can hold that. You want to hold that till maybe next month, and we can take care of that then. It sounds like there's no big hurry unless I'm absent, and then who would step into the role of chair? Is there a third officer of the Planning Commission?
I believe, according to your bylaws, I believe that's at the discretion of the commission. The commission would decide who's going to preside as chair.
Okay, all right.
And one other.
I plan to be here next month, but I am having a medical procedure tomorrow. So if I'm not, you guys, it's at the commission's discretion.
One other thing to consider between now and the time you take your vote on vice chair, the chair and vice chair positions are required to be at the meeting in person, at all the meetings in person.
Okay, all right. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, anything else from the commissioners before we adjourn tonight? Okay, thanks very much. We are adjourned. See you next month.